Welcome. Well, you're at home with Jim and Joy, and we are thrilled and delighted that you have welcomed us into your home. Well, you know that you are an important part of our EWTN family, and we would love to hear from you. So today, during this live show, give us a jingle at 1-800-221-9460. If you're calling us and you're outside North America, you can reach us at area code 205-271-2980, and you can always send us an email, jimandjoy@ewtn.com. Well, today we bring a beautiful woman who came all the way from New Orleans. Her name is Lise Naccari, and she is the founder of a beautiful ministry. It's called C-BIB. It's Compassionate Burials for Indigent Babies. You could go to their great website, cbibincorporated.com. So it's cbibinc.com.
Well, this show, and more than a show, this compassionate ministry of burying indigent and innocent little babies brought to mind the book of Tobit for me.
Yes.
And if you haven't read Tobit, you really need to, especially chapters 1 and 2, and was reading that, went to bed reading that, about this great man, Tobit.
You read it to me.
I did read it to you.
It was so beautiful. Thanks.
But I love his commitment there. You know, he speaks about the Israelites had been taken to Assyria because of their rebellion against Yahweh, against Jehovah. And he's describing himself a little bit, and he says something like, you know, but I clothe the naked and feed the hungry, and I would bury my brethren who may have been killed by this Gentile king. And so there was this problem in Assyria of killing the Israelites. Then in chapter 2 it speaks about they were strangled and left on the street. He says, but I would bury them. And he buried them at the risk of his life. Mm-hmm. So he had to leave his home because they were threatening to kill him for burying his brethren. But he was compelled because of the teaching of the Israelite God of respect, you know, for the body. And it's critical that you bury your dead. But after 40 days or 50 days, there was a king, the king died, and there was a new king that came about, and somehow Tobit's nephew was involved in the government. So he went back home. When he goes back home, there's a big meal for him. He's with his wife Anna, his son Tobiah, and there's this big meal, but he can't even eat the meal. He says, this meal is so beautiful. Find me a poor Israelite. I'm not going to eat till you find. So the guy goes out, his son goes out, and he finds a dead Israelite who'd been strangled. And he waits till sundown or whatever. He doesn't eat his meal. I'm talking about the commitment to other people and being a godly man. And he goes out, takes the body and puts it in a room till the next day and that he could bury. And one of, I think, of his own brethren was saying, you haven't learned yet. You keep burying the dead at the risk of your own life. And it says that Tobit just wept. He wept. And I think of this ministry, I think of the importance for us as Christian people, as Catholic people, of the dignity of the human body in life and in death. So isn't it just about the soul? And the soul, isn't the soul of that baby with the Lord? And it is, or the spirit's with the Lord, or when we die, aren't we with the Lord? So what's the big deal with the body? Because the body is a part of the person. We're not just dismembered spirits. We are body people. And we are spirit people. That's what it means to be a human being. You're not just using the body and then throwing it away. The body's sacred, and we look forward to the resurrection of the body and the life everlasting. So the body's going to be raised up, and how we treat that body is critical, not only to the dignity of that person, whether they're especially babies, aborted, murdered, abandoned, whatever it might be, that we give the dignity. Well, they already have dignity. We show that dignity, and one day they're going to be raised up, and maybe Jesus Christ is going to be coming with them. We'll see them all, and we want to do the right thing for the living and the dead and the life that is coming. Amen. Right,
yeah. Because we should honor the dead and the beautiful. I mean, we encountered this at our pregnancy medical center. We had a woman who had an adverse diagnosis, and she was being encouraged to abort the baby, and she came to us and she said, I'm thinking I'm going to abort the baby only because I want to have a funeral and I don't have any money to do that. And so maybe this is the way to go, because the culture of death encourages that, right? So there was a burden on her. She came to us and we said, no, stay with the pregnancy, be this baby's mother. And we don't know if the baby's going to die before you deliver it, after you deliver it, may stay alive a week, a day or two. We will give that baby dignity, value, and worth, and we will make a way.
Right.
And we made provision. And you've done that often just in parish ministry when you were Episcopal
so
priest.
she delivered that baby. The baby was either died shortly after or during the process. And we had the funeral. The baby was there, missing part of the skull, and but they had a hat on the baby. She had 3 other children. Family was there. And she went up to each one of those children and said, "This is your sister. This is your sister. This is your sister." They never would have had that time of coming together, all the other people around saying, "Whoa, this is incredible that she carried this child. The child died in the process here, but we revere God in and with this child."
Right, and bring about a healthy closure, emotionally, physically, spiritually, for that baby and that family.
So Lise Naccari is here with us, founder of C-BIB, Compassionate Burials for Indigent Babies, CBIBinc.com. This is going to be a beautiful, beautiful show. Neither life nor death nor anything will be able to separate us from the love of God in Christ Jesus. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Well, you're an important part of our EWTN family, and we would love to hear from you. So today, if you're home and you heard our intro and you're thinking, I would like to ask this lady, Lise, a question. Her name is Lise Naccari, and you can give us a jingle during the live broadcast and ask her. It's 1-800-221-9460. If you're calling and you're outside North America, you can reach us at area code 205-271-2980. And you can always send us an email during the show at jimandjoy@ewtn.com. And hopefully we'll use your question or your comment right here on the air. Well, right now, last week we had the beautiful March for Life in Washington, and then the weekend we had the Walk for Life West Coast. This weekend we're going to have the Walk for Life West Coast. We had LA Walk,
One Life LA.
One Life LA. Yep. And so there is a lot going on happening still in the pro-life movement and everything that's happening. So let's check out with Catherine Zeltner, who did an outstanding job, and she does a beautiful job on her weekly program, EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. Catherine, what is all the pro-life news for this week?
Hello from Washington, D.C., Jim and Joy. This week, we are joined by the White House's Senior Advisor for Strategic Communications, Mercedes Schlapp, and President of the Susan B. Anthony List, Marjorie Dannenfelser, to discuss President Donald Trump's historic address to the March for Life last week. It was the first time a president has addressed the march live, and it was done via satellite video. The speech was packed with pro-life messaging. It was the kind of message from the president we want to affirm, applaud, and encourage. Which brings me to this week's call to action. We are asking our viewers to send President Trump a thank you for his March for Life speech. The way to do this is by going to prolifeweekly.com. That's prolifeweekly.com. Just fill in your information and send in your thank you message. Also in tonight's show, we speak with a young Irish woman who says she was impeached as president of her university student union because of her pro-life views. We have all that and still much more. I hope to see you all tonight on EWTN Pro-Life Weekly Thursday at 10 p.m. Eastern and again on Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Now, back to you at home.
Well, thank you, Catherine. And right now I bring to you this beautiful woman who came all the way from Louisiana. Her name is Lise Naccari, and she is the founder of C-BIB. It's Compassionate Burials for Indigent Babies, the great website, CBIBinc.com. You want to go there and see all the good things that are going on, because this might not be happening in your state, and you might be home thinking, I need to get this activated in my state. And she's going to tell us how it happened for her in her beautiful state of Louisiana. Well, Lise, we want to welcome you to At Home with Jim and Joy, and we're thrilled that you are here.
Well, thank you for inviting me. This is a thrill.
This is good. We're excited. Now, what I want you to do first is tell our family at home, we fall madly in love with you. We want you to tell our family at home a little bit about Lise and what your marriage and your children, your grandchildren, and then how you got involved with this ministry.
Okay, well, of course, all that's a long story, so we'll try to condense it real short. But yes, I've been married for 41 years. We have 3 beautiful children, but all grown, and 4 grandchildren. And I want to say hello, Jordan, Austin, Hunter, and Ava. So they will love that.
I will.
Good.
So anyway, I have a mother's heart, and I lost a child. So I understand how that feels, and it was a very traumatic thing in my life, and I was a young woman, and I can relate to how difficult that is. So I think that is at the heart of this. So I do have compassion for women who have lost children. And how it got started, I just really believe this is a God thing. And I don't think I sat down and calculated this at all. I didn't. And it just evolved, and it just came knocking at my door. So it's been incredible. It continues to be an incredible story. It's been a very spiritual journey for me. And the journey is taking me, it's taking me all through different kind of ways of how to handle burial, babies that have been buried that were murdered, dismembered, all kinds of horrible things.
You have
and
babies
that
that
part,
have been murdered, aborted, unclaimed, I guess. Tough categories.
Drive-by shooting, anywhere from this big to 2 years old. And we just, it is an honor and a privilege.
It is.
They are innocent,
Yes.
beautiful, innocent children that deserve honor and respect. And that's what is at the heart of this. And I continue to be amazed. A lot of it, God had to work through me to show me a way of doing this. And it's been a spiritual journey that has taken me at the end of it, it's joy. It's pure joy to do, which is a miracle, because when you tell the world, first of all, everyone is like so aghast that you do such a thing, but it is a pure joy to do. And next week on Wednesday, we have a funeral, and in the month of January, we're burying 3 babies, and this is to give you an idea. At the end of a funeral, I feel full of joy, and that's got to be a miracle. That's got to be a miracle, because that's not the way of the world. And we give a free funeral to a family who couldn't do it for themselves. A lot of times that's our norm, and a lot of times they're fetuses, and it's beautiful work.
So
it's God's work.
If someone has had a miscarriage, let's say she's had a miscarriage and it's 12 weeks, and she had that miscarriage at home, who does she contact? How does she know that you even exist and there's a proper burial for that baby, as opposed to what does happen is sometimes the medical community will tell her she could flush it down the toilet, or she could bring it to the hospital and for medical waste, or and they'll take care of it. What is the procedure? What are the laws? How does that work?
Okay, well, there's a whole bunch of questions in there. So let me
She
take
does that
one
to
at
me
a
too.
time.
Asks me so many questions.
And they'll say, which one do you want me to answer
And I'm
first?
real ADD, so I'm like, oh, okay.
Just pick one or two.
Pick one, okay. Well, first of all, I do want to share a little story with something like that. We had a gentleman who called, and he had, his wife was 2 months pregnant, and they miscarried at home. And he called and he said, could you what do I do here? He says, I don't want to flush this down the toilet. This is my baby. And I really appreciated that. And I was like, yes, okay, wonderful. You know, call my funeral home. We'll take care of it. Well, he went to the funeral home with his wife, and they actually put, this baby was this big. And he said it was fully formed. And they put it in a plastic baggie and into a box. And they brought it to the funeral home and put it on the desk. And you know, at the funeral home, they were amazed. They were like, "Oh my goodness, it's never come to them like that." But there are cases like that. People tell me this all the time,
We hear
and
it
people
too.
don't think about that. If it's never happened to you, you wouldn't know. And so anyway, but we had a beautiful funeral. We had the Knights of Columbus with a little, they do the little aisle with the swords, you know, and we did a mass for him, and this beautiful couple went with this little matchbox. And before they went through this with the swords, and then the father goes and kisses it and puts it on the table. It was so moving and so beautiful, and such a respect for human life. And we had a hearse take it away, you know, and it was just such a display of this is what God is pleased with this. And it's just a beautiful display of showing human life, and this is what C-BIB is all about. C-BIB, we respect all human life. All human life is beautiful, precious, and sacred. Especially being a mom with children and grandchildren, it's a wonderful thing in your life, and you're like, this is beautiful. But when you have a human life that, and we've had cases where they're thrown in the trash can, they're found with newspaper wrapped around them, you know, and it's like, this is not it. And I feel like Tobit for that. It's like, please give me that baby. It's like, no, this is not what we do with human life. We show it respect and honor. And
there are, mentioning Tobit again, and in the climate of our culture and in the culture he was in this foreign nation, it was nothing in that nation for them to kill people who weren't like them. And so they didn't want anybody dealing with the bodies. Same thing with abortion and abandonment and exposure. And this is all going on in Rome at the time, you know, for generations of abandoning children on the abandonment walls and exposing them. And so it's the thing that Christians do, our Judeo-Christian heritage, that we respect the dignity. But the culture doesn't like it. So there's many people that are going to admire you on the show and in the community, but there's some people like, that's crazy, there's no reason for that. This is not anything much anyway, the body really doesn't matter, it was abandoned, especially those that might be more committed to abortion. That's the last thing they want. They want to be able, not necessarily some women have had the abortions, but the industry itself, to acknowledge, to see.
This is a human life.
Because it's not enough to abort the child. You should not bury them. We don't want to see that. So you are like Tobit in that, to the point of Tobit, it was like they were going to kill him for doing this. But
and the
thank God
woman, you know, they say this is a woman's right to her own body. Well, no, there's another body here. There's another baby here.
You said this kind of came knocking at your door. So what does that mean?
Oh, I'm telling you, it's just knocking on my door. It's,
what was the first time you were confronted with having to do this, or that you said, I got to get involved? What was the case, or what?
Well, it started with my mother was dying in California, and I went up there. The day before I went up there, EWTN, I watched it on EWTN, Father, forget his name, but the pro-life priest, and
Frank Pavone.
Father Frank Pavone.
That's it. And he was on, and he was talking about aborted babies and the price of they were being sold, the body parts. And this was way back in 2002, and right at the end of 2002. And I said, I told my mom the next day I saw her, and my mom was dying in California, and I said, Mom, I gotta go. I'm gonna go bury those babies. I mean, I just blurted that out. And she said, you have to go do this. And when she did this to me, my mother never told me what to do. I had a big sister.
She told you what to do.
Tell me what to do. But not my mom. She never did that. And And so I still have her, you have to do this. Well, 2 months later, at a meeting at New Orleans Right to Life, and I was asked to be on the board, and they said, we have this aborted baby that needs to be buried, and who can bury it? And I was like, are you kidding? And I just jumped up out of my shower. I must have looked like I was crazy, and I said, that's me. I got to do that. I have to do that. And it's God. You know, this whole thing's God, and he gets all the glory, and it's just an honorable, it's such a beautiful thing. I get these little moms who can't afford to have a burial. And they are so appreciative. And I had one little mom, and she just grabbed me and just squeezed the life out of me. And she's just crying all over my shoulder, and I'm wet all over with tears. And she just, in my ear, she's, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I can't tell you how beautiful this is. And I've had friends go and to the funerals, and I had one friend, she said, Lise, there's no words for this. And there are no words for this. Right. Now we have a big group of men that make these coffins, and there's so many people getting in on this, and it's beautiful because as much as I'm getting blessed, everybody's getting blessed just doing this. We have, I brought a coffin here today, and this one, this particular one, we have people donating their wedding dresses. Now, I'll tell you right now, we have 1 million wedding dresses already. So
you don't need any more wedding dresses.
People are donating wedding dresses?
Yeah, and then they use the material.
And they use the material, and it's absolutely fabulous. Beautiful lines, the inside. I had one woman tell me, she lined the inside, and she said to me, she said, that was the most spiritual 3 days of my life, to line this.
Right.
And I just, you know, it's, like I said, it's no words can explain this. But, and then we have the gowns. Well, ever since we had a baby that was thrown in the trash, wrapped up in newspaper. It was the day after Mardi Gras. And wrapped up in newspaper, found in a really nice neighborhood. And that was another time that was just, it was God. It was just God. And it's taken me a while because some of these situations, drive-by shooting, you know, murdered, your own parents murder you, you know, it's just, those kind of things can really take a toll. And one day I went into church and I said, that's it. God, I can't take this anymore, you know. And I went in there, and the Lord, I just felt that he was speaking to me. He's like, Lise, I don't want you to think about their body anymore. I want you to think about the resurrection. Focus on the resurrection. I was like, okay, that's how I can deal with this.
That's right.
Because there is a beauty in it all, and you have to find it. Yes. But it is, and it's just so deep. It's just so deep. The very first funeral, which that was a baby, that was an aborted baby. I was dressed all nice with my high heels on, and it was a rainy day. It was cold, and there was a plot, and the mom had just put a little flower on top in the plot, and I said, oh, I'm going to do that too. And I take a flower, I went in. Well, I fell, and I fell with both my hands like this and into the mud and into where the grave was. And I just fell in it. And I got up, and I'm like, God, and I'm looking at these hands that are full of mud. And I said, I'm getting muddy, God. I'm getting in this, you know. And just recently, I was giving out some, we had a fundraiser, and I was giving out some presents. And the box that we had with the presents had this glitter, and it was all over, and I got in the car, and I'm rushing and doing my thing, you know. And all of a sudden, I look at my hands, and it's full of this silver glitter. And I thought of my hands with the mud on it. And I said, you know what? This is good, God. this is really good. I mean, some things are really hard.
Right.
Some things God asks you to do is really hard, but it's really beautiful. At the end of the road, you've got to get through it.
Right.
And it is beautiful, and He's got something good.
Well, you know what you share so beautifully, and you know, we participate in it too, and it's joyful sorrow, and you can't explain it. It's but it's a cross that He lays on you, and you know, it's like you weren't looking for it, and it just kind of came your way, and you bear it because you love Him so much. And then it is the mud of it, and then He gives you the outward and visible sign of the glitter, like this is the best stuff.
This is good
Because you're honoring life, and you're blessing God's heart. You know, and that is just the best to know and live for the purpose for which we were created.
Right.
You know, and it's like, and you think, oh, this is such a small part. It's a small part of a great big thing that matters.
Why don't we pause right here, speaking with Lise Naccari, a founder of C-BIB, Compassionate Burials for Indigent Babies, C-BIB Inc., CBIB.com. It's a very tender conversation today, a beautiful thing that's being done, and we pray peace for all of you out there who may have had infants that have passed away in various ways. Those of you who've suffered pregnancy loss. And you know, maybe you didn't do the right thing. You feel that way, you feel that guilt and shame. God wants to forgive you. And God somehow, some way does have you a child, no matter what's happened. It doesn't justify some of the things we do, or we just didn't know what to do, we panicked, whatever it is. God will make all things beautiful in its time, and this is a beautiful ministry. We want to hear from you, so give us a call or email us. We'll be right back. Plenty more to come. Please don't go away.
Welcome back. Well, remember that we want you to be a part of our show. So if you're at home and you're listening and you have a question for Lise, we want you to give us a call at 1-800-221-9460. If you're calling and you're outside North America, you can always reach us at area code 205-271-2980. And you can always send us an email, jimandjoy@ewtn.com, and hopefully we'll use your question or your comment right here on the air. Having a beautiful conversation with Lise Naccari. She's the founder of a ministry called C-BIB, Compassionate Burials for Indigent Babies.
And we do invite you to call us or email us. We would really like to know what's going on in your diocese or in your state. Are there any works like this where people are making available to others who can't afford it? Burials, funeral. I think you have choirs and all that goes into it. What's going on in your diocese, in your area, to help those who need to be buried, or those who don't have the money for a burial for their loved one, for their child? What are you doing? Or ask a question, call in, let us know. So where would you like to go with this ministry and what you're doing? Do you want to share more about some of the children that you buried, or about the components of it?
Well, I did want to share about, we helped lobby for a, I'm terrible at this, you know.
A law about?
Yeah, a law about the woman's right to bury her own baby. And even if it's a fetus or an embryo, even if it's this small.
Right.
And
That's, I want to underline that again, whether or not it's the right title. A woman's right to bury her baby.
Her baby.
Okay. And
But baby, you understand,
Right. Yeah, preborn or born.
they're going to, we had it that we made sure it said fetus.
Okay.
So that we understood that it was it was not a baby that was born.
Right.
It was a fetus that was born, okay? So we wanted to make sure that, because, you know, of course, they have the laws here do not acknowledge that that's a human being. And of course, we acknowledge, and being Catholic, we acknowledge that this is a human being. And the moment
moment
of
of conception.
conception. And so to say it's not a human being under 20 weeks, you know, that's very unfortunate because, you know, even Nazi Germany, they said the Jews were not human beings. I mean, the second you do that to a group of people in, you know,
Right.
Well,
We
that's
destroy it.
dehumanize them.
you're
you know.
sharing that
Yeah.
law is the first time I've ever heard of a law like that in our country.
Yeah.
And my own experience, Joy's experience in working with women who are miscarrying and who are in hospitals, and their right to have those remains is really in question, especially when it's, like you're saying, earlier.
Right.
I think if it goes over in most states, certain weeks gestation, then, you know, they give you opportunity to retrieve the remains. But you're saying Louisiana has passed a law that's saying to this woman to notify them. They're going to be noticed as they're miscarrying, or that you have the right to these remains. Now that might sound like, well, isn't that the law? It's not in many, many states, and especially the younger gestational age. It's more like, well, what do you want that for? We have to do stuff with it. And it just might incinerate it, put it in with the rest of the matter there. So this is critical. I want everybody to hear this.
Yeah.
You might want to think about it in your state,
In your
or you've
state.
got legal connections or governmental connections, because it is a big deal when you're miscarrying and getting those remains, and you have to jump so many hoops, or you have to, or they just, or you never do get them.
Right.
That's powerful.
And then under 20 weeks, they, at least in Louisiana, they throw them away, basically. You know, they get picked up by medical waste. And so that's one thing I'd like to try to see. Also, if you would like to start a C-BIB in your state, let's see if we can do that. And it just brings awareness that this is a human being. This is not my body and my choice. This is a child. And so, you know, this brings awareness to that.
And not only that about the child, and I think of, I mean, we've experienced 8 miscarriages among our daughters and daughter-in-laws and stuff. And when they leave the hospital, they're leaving the hospital with empty wombs.
Exactly.
Broken hearts.
Broken.
And nothing, and no offering, like, let us memorialize your baby, just like, okay, maybe you can get pregnant again, try again. And you're like, what? You're kind of like in this fog.
That one?
Right. And so to say to a woman who's miscarried, you have a right to this, to the remains of your child, the dignity, value, and worth of your child. Now, she could opt not to do anything and give the property back over, give that baby back over to the hospital, or what else can she do? How does that process go? So suppose she's not even indigent. Suppose that she's a wealthy woman, and she can make a way, but she doesn't even know what to do.
She didn't even know,
Right.
and I think that happens to a lot of young people, because it's young people having these babies. So
I think the other point in that is, you could be wealthy in whatever state you're in, and they're
you
still
don't
telling you
even
you're not
know.
going to. No, but you're not going to get the
You're not
remains.
gonna
They're
get
telling
it.
you. So it's not a
Right.
matter of wealth. It's a matter of, no, it's recognizing that the remains are a human being, and that human being came from.
And it's yours.
Right.
This is it's not yours hospital. This person, this
Belongs to
this
us.
baby is mine.
Yeah.
Joe, let's take this email.
Okay, it says, funerals can be very expensive. What is the average cost of one of your funerals? And is the family required to contribute anything? And this is Larry from Tyler, Texas.
Good question.
Very good question, Larry. What is wonderful is when I've got a family who cannot afford it, I'm like, this is free. You don't have to do anything. We just take care of everything. If they would like something specific done, we do that. We actually had one girl, she said, I heard that you do the wedding dresses. I have a wedding dress. I would like my baby in that wedding dress. So we did that for her. You know, we do what they would like because it's all about respect.
Right.
You know, and the other question about that was, oh, how much it costs. It's about $1,000 per, and that's, but look, every state is different, and so you'd have to figure out what your state, but you know, you make a lot of phone calls and try to see what you can do.
What are the aspects, what are the components to what you do? So if somebody says, I need your help, I want to have a funeral for my baby here, what are the components of it? From start to finish, what takes place?
It's a lot. You know, you've got to first make sure you can secure the baby from the hospital. That's the first, you know.
Right.
And so there's like umpteen things that need to be done.
But what do you do? I mean, you provide
Like
the casket.
Okay.
You provide the clothes.
Right.
You will get them a funeral
And
parlor
you have
if
to have a
needed.
place. And the
Okay.
funeral home, we've worked with the same funeral home for 15 years now. And it's wonderful. I mean, we're all really family doing all of this the way that we're doing it. And it's really beautiful. Sometimes we have 50 people at these funerals because everybody's got their hand in it, but everybody sees the beauty of it all. And to give to these often poor families is just a beautiful ministry.
And so you work, what if they say, I would like to have the baby buried in my town where I live?
Okay.
So do you work with maybe a church burial site?
Well,
or
what I end
how
up
does that
doing
work?
in that kind of situation, which we just had one of those, is that we actually send a check to the funeral home to cover some costs for them. Because I can't do it everywhere. We've buried over 100 babies in Louisiana. I think it's like 117 or more. But anyway, so that's how we can do this. But on the whole, most of those are funerals. And the funerals are absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. What if they say, I want somebody singing at the funeral?
And we do it. Oh, listen, we've had
want a
jazz
choir.
musicians come, and I mean, somebody will say, "This is my Uncle Joe," you know, and I mean, it's very personal, very wonderful. We had a group of people, and they were from the Canary Islands, and they sang this song, and I was like, that was awesome. You know, and they all had this dialect, and it was just, it's always very personal. I never know what's going to happen. It's just always beautiful. I get these families. We had one that had lots of little children that came. They all brought stickers, you know, Superman stickers, and, you know, Hulk, and, you know, and they put it, all of them were putting stickers. The little thing had full of stickers. It was
Do you
just
have
special.
ministers available, Catholic,
We have a deacon.
where they can say,
Yeah.
I want this person to do it?
Right.
Or maybe do you do it for non-believers,
Yes.
atheists, agnostics?
Yes, we do. We've done it for every one, and I've not encountered an atheist at this point, you know.
Well, Louisiana
But
doesn't have many of them in there.
they're all very holy.
Yeah.
No, and then we have a group of men that do the caskets, and it's absolutely beautiful, and they engrave the name, which is so awesome. And I don't know if they're going to play the picture, but there was one where there was a little mama that got up, and she just kept doing this to the name, and she wouldn't sit down, and she just kept doing that. And there's just fabulous things that happen, and they break your heart, you know. But it's, you know, like yesterday, I get a phone call from a mom, and then I'm worried about what I'm going to wear here, you know. And then when I get this phone call, and I'm like weighing it, you know, and they said, we just lost the baby an hour ago, you know, and I'm like, well, you know, the world goes away. And all of a sudden, it's like, you put yourself into perspective. You know, what are the important things in this life? And this is one of them, you know, just showing that you care. And we have a big group that we all show that we care.
Now, if people come to you and they're indigent and you help them financially and get them through this, do you have designated space at a cemetery where you say, so that they say, okay, I want to go to this, and they don't care, you know, if it's Catholic or whatever, they just want their baby buried. You have like plots, right?
Right. It's all, we have that. And so it's always assigned there. Now, if they want to go somewhere else, I'm like, well, you know, this is what we provide.
Right.
And we're doing this for indigents. So if they've already, usually if it's somebody who already has, they've got more means.
Right.
So we really are doing this for the poor.
Okay,
So-
we have one more email. It says,
Okay.
do you receive any type of government funding to help defray any of these costs? And what about corporate sponsors? And this is Steve from Valdosta, Georgia.
Okay, a wonderful question. And yes, please have the government call me. That would be a good idea. And we had Chevron, and we've had a couple of people, a couple of foundations, Catholic foundations.
Yeah, because you're a 501c3.
Yes, 501c3. And if someone wants to do a C-BIB in their state, we please give us a call if you're interested in that. Because, like I said, this shows the dignity of human life. I also wanted to show these little pictures. These are some little babies. This little baby's face is just so fabulous. Gorgeous baby. But this is one of the babies that we buried. This was a 2-year-old. And his parents were arrested for his death and buried in a shallow grave under the bridge. And so we gave him a beautiful funeral. And, you know, we've got all these little families. We're a part of them. And we make these things happen for them. This is a little family that just lost their baby. And so, you know, it's different cases. Some are very sad, some are, you know, but at the end of it, I always get, thank you, you know, and it's profound.
As I was sharing at the beginning, Joy was sharing it, actually, this woman who came to us at our center, who had been to the hospital, and they said, bad diagnosis for your child, one that you brought the child, and so on. She came to us. And as I spoke to her about the whole situation, you know, what's your greatest fear about carrying this child and so on, that's what she said. She just said, my fear is I can't bury this baby, you know. And then we also have people who are pretty well-to-do, and they're miscarrying, and they just don't know what to do. If they do get the baby, they don't know. And maybe it is a financial. So what do I do? How much is a funeral home? How much is, where do I get the casket? To have something ready for them.
And
this is already made.
Right.
This is ready made.
They're in grief. They're grief-stricken.
Yeah,
but we need this
depressed.
and other options in every state. Every diocese should have a plan so that when our people are going through a miscarriage or a baby's murdered or baby's abandoned, somebody has a baby, they know they were going to have the baby, and they say, I don't even want to see the baby, that they could turn to the church, they could turn to people like you and say, well, you're all set to do something with this child. We're going to do something. We're going to give this baby a reverent, beautiful, and we're going to bring healing to the family that's involved. Because funerals mean so much. I mean, especially the our Catholic way. Yeah, to be comforted, to say people really care, and you feel so out of control, you don't know what to do. People are doing that for you. It restores your belief in humanity.
It does.
In some of the most difficult situations.
It does. And we get so many different kinds of people, and there's such a unity, you can feel it. And I mean, we're there because we care, and that just shows. And it's just fabulous, just fabulous.
Now, you mentioned, were you involved, you have safe haven law in Louisiana? Tell us about that.
Yes, there's a safe haven law. So we've had cases where the mothers threw their baby, delivered the baby, and thought no one knew, and threw it into the trash can, then goes to the hospital. Well, she could have gone to the hospital with the baby, you know. And this law, I believe, is in a lot of states. I kind of leave this up to the viewers. Check on your laws, see if you have safe haven, or it might not be called safe haven, it might be something else, but similar, but they do have these laws in some states. If it's not in your state, go and get it done, get it in your state. The other thing is go and get it done with this new law that we got. It's Compassionate Burials Act that we got into a law in Louisiana. It's also in Kansas, I think. And so get that done. Call me if you need this done. We'll see, we'll get it done.
What would be the best way, like in a state by state, would it be the best route to go would be contact the National Right to Life in your state?
That would be great.
You know, like Louisiana Right to Life people, because you know then they know. Nobody has to reinvent the wheel then, right? I mean, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, we got this. Now we just need people to push it through. Are you talking about safe haven? Yeah, safe haven or C-BIB.
Yeah, right.
Let's just pause at this point. We're going to take a break, and we're going to carry over Lise into the next segment. It's Compassionate Burials for Indigent Babies, CBIBinc.com. Start one where you are. Start something like it. This is all part of the pro-life culture. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Welcome back. Well, you're an important part of our EWTN family, and you know, we would love for you to join us live right here on At Home. You could be a member of our studio audience, and we would love to have you. So it's 2018. You might be thinking, I've always wanted to take a pilgrimage to Irondale, Alabama. This is the year. All you need to do is contact the pilgrimages at EWTN.com. Give them a jingle at 205-271-2966. You could take a 50-minute short ride up to Hanceville to the Blessed Shrine, and you can visit Mother Angelica's resting place, and we would love to have you. Well, right now we're going to go straight to Rome to hear from Joan. Joan, what do you have for us today?
Well, greetings from the Eternal City on a day when you almost don't need a coat. It's almost like springtime here. Now, I'm sure that all of you know, yesterday the Vatican published Pope Francis's message for the 52nd World Communications Day that will take place, of course, next May 13th. Now, the title of that message was "The Truth Will Set You Free, Fake News and a Journalism for Peace." And for me, the Holy Father hit a home run. I mean, he defined fake news. He looked at the terrible effects, sometimes irreparable damage that can occur, and then he suggested remedies for fighting fake news, which actually involve all of us. And if you look at television, which of course is our medium, if you look at radio, writing a blog, writing a news story, which is also my medium, the Pope said, we are the purveyors of truth, but the Pope called us protectors of truth. How important is the truth to the Pope, or fake news, if you will? Yesterday, he tweeted twice about this. The first time he said, there's no such thing as harmless disinformation. Trusting in falsehood can have dire consequences. And then just a few hours later, he tweeted, the most radical antidote to the virus of falsehood is purification by the truth. Now, the Holy Father had a message for all of us in the media, EWTN, Catholic media, secular media, and here's what he said. If responsibility is the answer to the spread of fake news, then a weighty responsibility rests on the shoulders of those whose job it is to provide information, namely journalists, the protectors of news. He said in today's world, their work is, in every sense, not just a job, it is a mission. And he said they must remember that in the feeding frenzy, in the mad rush for a scoop, it's not speed that counts, it's people. He said when you are informing people, you are also forming people. And then the Holy Father said, this is so interesting, we need to unmask what could be called the snake tactics used by those who disguise themselves in order to strike at any time. And then, of course, he said this is the strategy used by the crafty serpent in the book of Genesis, who at the dawn of humanity created the first fake news story, thus beginning the tragic history of sinful mankind. So an amazing message, lots more to say, but as usual, time's up here. So back to you.
Joan, thanks so much, and for sharing the Holy Father's thoughts on accuracy and truth in the media. We really do appreciate it. So, Lise, we have a few minutes left. What's on your heart, what's on your mind regarding this tremendous ministry?
I just want to say this is all about love, and we love even the mothers that have aborted. We love all the families, and we ask you to, I want you to just listen for just a moment. I want to sing a little song. I will never forget you, my people. I have carved you on the palm of my hand. I will never forget you. I will not leave you orphaned. I will never forget my own. Does a mother forget her baby, or a woman the child within her womb? Yet even if these forget, yet even if these forget, I will never forget my own. God is about love. This is about love. I know you all are too. God loves you no matter what. And you know, the greatest thing that God did was to give us the stories of the woman at the well, you know, all of those stories, the prodigal son. It's never too late to turn back. God is always there with open arms for you. So if you've done things that you shouldn't, know that you've got an open door to turn that around.
Amen.
Well, Lee, thank you so much.
I usually sing better than that.
No,
It was beautiful.
no,
It was absolutely
that was,
beautiful.
it wasn't,
God is good.
that was
Thank
incredibly
you for having me on.
powerful and a great blessing for humanity and for women wherever they are, whatever's happened in their lives. And this has been, it helps to restore our belief in humanity. It's a blessed work that you do. And I was sharing with your husband and you before, I don't know if you were there, but I was saying that how Jesus himself didn't even have a place for burial, and it was provided for him. And your husband said, but it was just temporary, because he was resurrected.
That's right.
It's Lise Naccari, founder of C-BIB, Compassionate Burials for Indigent Babies. Go to C-BIB Inc., CBIBINC.com. Consider beginning one in your own diocese, in your own state. Remember that the Walk for Life is coming up January 27th, the 14th Walk for Life, 2:30 Eastern Time, hosted by Father Doug Keck and Father Joseph Mary Wolf. Remember, all together, we are building, and we will build a new culture of life. Life, marriage, and the family will prevail. Keep it on EWTN. Bye now.
Yes. Amen.